It's Saturday, June 23rd. Welcome to Pastor Bob Daily. It's been quite a week, hasn't it? I just finished yesterday doing my series called 5 Serious Flaws of the Modern Church, and I appreciate the loads of messages and emails that you sent to me. There were so many, and I appreciate it. I really expected for it to be very controversial, and I got very few controversial letters, mostly encouragement, but most of you telling me that I was speaking to you, and most of them saying that they no longer attended church. Let me talk about that for just a minute, can I? Because a lot of you are what we call in the United States disenfranchised. In other words, people that don't belong to something, they've for some reason become an outcast to the organization. And I want to address that today. First of all, let's start with the basics. And, these are all things we've talked about here before, but I want to refresh your memory for a minute, and then I want to take it further. We said that the word church in the New Testament doesn't apply to building. It means people. People getting together and doing what? Encouraging one another, strengthening one another, listening to one another, being friends to one another, praying with each other. All of those things. Isn't that important? And isn't it cool when Christians can get together and do that in a setting where they can be honest? They don't have to worry about what people are going to think necessarily, because we realize we're all in the same boat. And what happens when you institutionalize that and formalize it? You create, for many people, a whole atmosphere of fear and intimidation. People are afraid to share. People are afraid to do anything. One person dominates and the rest listen, and you have something, folks, that I don't believe the Bible intended for it to be. Now, this is not an indictment against the church. Again, I have to refresh your memory. I love the church. And probably my biggest comfort zone is sitting in a little church singing hymns. That's how I grew up. I love that. And I think that there are churches around the world that are doing a fantastic job. And this is not an indictment against the institutional church per se, but there are some folks that have some real problems, and there are some that abuse people. Those are the ones I want to talk about. Now, churches come in all sizes, shapes, denominations, people types, whatever. You can find almost anything if you're looking for it. And I realize that when I talk about church, I'm talking a lot about the church in America. Because internationally, churches are very different. In many countries, the church is a state church, where the state actually kind of controls the church and pays the pastors. In many places, honestly, it works fairly well. Some places it doesn't. And I was reminded by some of my European friends that, some of the things that I said don't necessarily make a lot of sense in some European countries, because everybody attends the local state church. The cool thing is, though, that even if you attend and you don't get all of your needs met, you can still invite people home, and that's what I want to talk about. If you're in a church that's loving and caring, that's important. Please don't be in a church that abuses you. Please don't do that. You don't have to. Jesus spoke out against it. But if you're in a church where your needs are being met, but all those little grandmothers don't quite understand you, they like their hymns and they don't like your rock music, it's not a good reason to leave necessarily. I love those little grandmothers. And the closer I get to the grandmother age, well, I am the grandfather age right now. But the closer I get to that part of my life, and I'm just a few months away from being an official senior citizen, I understand that mentality. I also understand that I'm a bit of a fish out of water. I'm one of the very few people my age that I know that likes, heavy metal, extreme music, as well as some of the more traditional stuff. But I understand also that if I wasn't in the middle of this movement, I probably wouldn't understand it either. And a lot of it comes down to taste. For the same reason that you don't like your parents' or grandparents' music that much, they don't like yours. We don't have to agree on those things. It's not a reason to leave. But you know, it is a reason to do something to supplement it. And folks, you can take something home. You know, get a group of people together in your house. Get them together at the local coffee shop. I have a Thursday night group here that meets at Starbucks. That's a great place. We're looking for another location right now. You know, there are so many different ways you can do it. I've been to church groups that meet in pubs in Europe. There's so many different ways of doing church. Again, people meeting together just as people to talk and to relate their faith and encourage one another. And that's what we need to do. You see, that's what Christ told us to do. And it's not an option, folks, that you draw your strength from other believers who will encourage you and help guide you. And folks, it's also not an option that you stay in a place where you're being abused. And I hope today, after a result of these last 5 days, that you will make healthy decisions for your life. Don't stay in a place that abuses you, but don't just stay away from everything because you've gotten hurt in one or two places. Find something that is going to be a blessing for your life. And if you can't find something, invite some friends over and start something. That's the greatest thing, folks. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. It's the heart of what it is that is the most important. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this more. On Monday, I've got some surprises as we begin once again. I'm going to have a different background. This background right here is being finished, and it'll be used for my new podcast called Word that will be out July 15th. And that's for home Bible studies and that kind of thing. And you're welcome to use it if you'd like to. But we'll have another set actually for this podcast, and I'm excited to premiere that on Monday. Well, God bless you. Have a great day.